Hockey Inside Out, brought to you by Videotron.
Welcome to the HIO show. Today we have a couple of Canadian Stanley Cup rings in the house. Chris Nyland from the '86 team is a player, and everybody knows Jacques Demers, the last coach to win a cup in '93. Jacques, you watched game 2 with a special guest at the Bell Center.
Yes, a big hockey fan. No politics.
Stephen Harper.
Yeah, no politics. Just told them when they got out of the car underneath the garage there where the Montreal Canadiens parked their cars, said, Mr. Harper, we're here for hockey. Let's have a good time. Enjoy it. He loves the game. He runs into Régent Houle and he says, Régent, how are you? He said, 1971, you won the cup. I didn't even know. But that's how knowledgeable he is. So we had a good time, and that's what's a great fan he is, and good for him.
Canadians down 2-0. Chris, can they come back?
Sure, they can come back. Again, will they come back? The way they've been playing, I don't think they've been playing as well as, that Boston series. Obviously, that first game, they didn't play well at all. Last game, better. They had 40 shots, but no traffic in front. They took some stupid penalties, very undisciplined penalties that nullified some power plays for them. They haven't been executing. So, yeah, they can come back, but they certainly have their work cut out for them.
Jacques, your thoughts on the decision to start Tokarski in game 2?
You know what? I think it was a good decision. I don't think it was just a coach decision. I believe they talked with Marc Bergevin, or certainly discussed it with Gerard Galland, Jean-Jacques Daigneault. If your mindset as a coach is that you don't think you could win with a certain goaltender, which was Peter Budaj, and you have a better chance to win with Tokarski, you make the decision. You live with it. I think the kid played good. If you lose 4-3 and he allows 4 goals, but he only scored 1 goal. So it was a good decision. I've seen it probably helped him make the decision. Is it Gibbons in Anaheim?
Mm-hmm.
The kid who came in. Gibson. Yeah. Thank you, Chris. The kid who came in and won 2 games. Unfortunately for him, lost the last game, the 7th game against LA. So it's not a gamble. It's just a feeling that you could win with this guy for that night.
Would you start him again in game 3, Chris?
I think you got to go with him now. I mean, I was hoping to see Budaj get the opportunity. He didn't. I thought he should have played. And if he didn't do that well, then you go with the kid. But now that you've gone with the kid, again, I think you got to stay with him right to the end.
As a coach, Jacques, by not starting Budaj, do you worry about losing him? He has another year left on his contract?
Well, he's definitely not coming back next year. By doing that, you're telling him, I don't feel as a coach that you're good enough to win this very important game that we lost 7-2, and we need to win this game. We don't want to be down 0-2. And there's no question that the plans for Budaj, okay, 1-year deal, that's part of the game, and but I don't think there definitely is not in their plan anymore.
No, Chris Kreider, public enemy #1 in Montreal. Chris, after crashing into Carey Price and taking him out, was that a dirty play?
I don't think it was a dirty play. I think it was just a play where the kid was going to the net. He had a lot of pressure from the back from Markov and Emelin. He was trying to score a goal. He lost his balance. If you look on the replay, he goes back in his heels and falls. Now, I know he has some history there, but you got to look at the play itself, and that's what I'm looking at. I don't think it was intentional. The kid, big boy, one of the fastest skaters in the league. He goes to the net hard, what every coach wants.
Exactly.
I don't believe it was intentional.
Chris, another thing I may add to, if you don't mind, if they don't show the Fleury in this incident and Anderson incident, as Chris just mentioned, there is an history there. But what happened that night, I agree with Chris. If it happens to Vigneault, he's complaining too. It's normal that a coach is going to defend his player. But the bottom line is, the big 6'3", as Chris mentioned, big man, 226 pounds of speed. You just don't stop on the dime like some people think.
And he's doing what every coach tells him to do, as he said.
Go to the net. How many times, and Chris has heard that, it's not new. In 2014, it was when Chris played go to the net, and that's what he did.
Kreider also he could have been a Hab, because he was drafted number 19 overall in 2009, 1 pick after the Canadiens took Louis LeBlanc. Which is interesting.
Well, you look at those things and you know, like McDonough, and you say, wow, but you know, those things happen in hockey. And unfortunately, now McDonough's playing here, and what is it, 6 points in the last 2 games. So that even makes it more, we could have had him, you know, but that's the game.
Now, Chris, when the Habs got Thomas Vanek, you were on this show and you said your biggest concern was he would play not to get hurt. It looked like he's doing that in the Rangers series.
A little bit, you know. Again, here's a guy coming up to the biggest contract of his life, set himself up for the rest of his life. You know, he got through that Boston series, which was a war, and here he is now. Again, I just think he's struggling a bit. He's looking to make plays instead of shoot all the time. He's struggling a bit that way. You know, he's a hard guy to read a lot because, you know, he doesn't have that. He doesn't look like he's working hard all the time because he's a different type of player that way. You know, he's around the puck. He got a nose for the puck, but he definitely can do better. I don't think he's just sitting back, but he's certainly struggling at this point.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, John.
Chris, I think you bring up a great point. When you are playing not to get hurt, you don't play hockey. The one thing that I hope not, I don't know him, but you know, he came here, I was for it 100%. He refused $50 million from the Islanders. I'm saying, wow, you know, where are you going to get that money now? Because people are watching them right now. So we'll see. But it's hard for me to get on a player that everybody was so happy to see that's just not performing the way he is. You know that first round pick in the NFL? That was said to lay back a little bit in college because he wanted to be picked first round in the money. When that happens, sometimes, I'm not accusing his agent said, watch yourself now, big contract coming up. So hopefully that's not the case, but he's certainly not playing at the level he should be playing.
Before this season, he had only played in 10 playoff games since 2007. I'm wondering, is maybe the postseason game too fast for him, Chris? Does he look slow out there?
I don't know too fast. I mean, remember, he's 30 years old. He hasn't been this deep in the playoffs. You know, every level comes up. The skating level, the intensity level, the shooting level, every level of the game comes up this time of year. And when you're not used to have been in that before the first time, you got to make some adjustments. And the longer you go, the more difficult it is. It's the most difficult trophy in sports to win.
We'll be back after a short break, and I'll ask Jacques what his pregame speech would be before Game 3. Welcome back. The Canadiens trailing 2-0 to the Rangers in this series. Jacques, if you were coaching the Canadiens today, what would your pregame speech include?
Well, you're asking the right guy in a way, because I was down twice as a coach, 0-2 twice and 1-3. And I remember, because it gets always back, these things are important because they were saying only 13% of the teams have come back from 0-2 deficit. My thinking, if you permit me, forget Detroit, that's too long ago, but in '93, when we were down 0-2 to the Nordiques, came into the room the morning of the skate, just basically optional, but a meeting's important. Guys, tonight, I don't want to hear about we're 0-2. I don't want to hear what we did. Us coaches, we corrected certain things in the power play, penalty killing. Let's win the first period. Let's keep our fans, but tonight they're in New York, let's keep our fans in the game. In New York, the contrary, let's get the fans out of the game. So Chris, as a player, you're sitting there, Stu, and Chris is saying, you know, all he's asking me right now is win this first period, and then we'll take care of the rest. And then we won the first period, and we went on, and you know, we beat them 4 straight. But the key was not to put more pressure on the players than they had. This is Montreal here. And I'm telling you right now, the number of media that were there for the playoffs, I mean, we can't get distracted. Okay, Chris, the most important thing, and Stu, was we were focused, win the first period.
If you were playing with the Habs today, Chris, would you get up and say something in the locker room before the game?
Yeah, maybe. You know, it wouldn't be a big speech. I don't think it'd be any different. You know, just let's focus on getting this game. Come on, let's go out and play well. You know, be involved physically, go to the net hard, all those things. You know, I wouldn't get up and give any pep talk or anything. I wouldn't change anything I normally do before the game, but I'd certainly try and be more intense when I get out in the
Would you want to be on the first shift?
Oh yeah, obviously that's the best way to take the crowd out of it, right? Put someone like me on the ice and go out there and maybe get a big hit to start off, maybe run the goalie for a shift.
Accidentally, right?
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah, I've never heard that before, accidentally on purpose. Chris, you're so right. You expect, Stu, from your veterans to be the leaders, but you don't expect, he played with a lot of leaders too. I had some good leaders. You do not expect or want these leaders to start giving a big speech. The preparation of that game day is all about what the young kids see. You know, like Brad Richard won a Stanley Cup. Martin St. Louis won a Stanley Cup. On the other side, Giunta won a cup. Even though if he's not playing, Travis Moen, who's been really good about all this, it's not easy not to play. So that's all you want, the leaders to stand up and don't, as Chris mentioned, you don't have to make the big speech.
When you watch the playoff action today, Chris, what has changed most about the game from when you played that you noticed?
Well, there's no fight in the playoffs. I think, you know, the obvious things like the tugging, the pulling, all that stuff, the holding that they used to let go, they don't. I mean, they used to let all that go. They call it now. I mean, they don't let anything slide. And that's the biggest thing, I think. The playoffs, again, the intensity levels there. It was always this time of year where everything just get kicked up a notch.
Now, Jacques, you must be proud to see two French-Canadian coaches in the Eastern Conference final.
Oh, absolutely. Alain Vigneault played for me a little bit in St. Louis. Michel Therrien. They all went through the wars, if you want. Like Chris will tell, when you have to go through the minors and you have to bus in junior, go to your American League. You're Michel Therrien sitting in Pittsburgh with his two kids and nobody's hardly talking to him. So when they bounce back, if you want, and see them in the conference finals, you're very happy for them because nothing was easy for those two guys.
Now, some people were surprised that the Rangers stayed over an extra night in Montreal after Game 2. Jacques, what was your take on that?
Great move. Just before we went on the air, I said, Chris, you would have loved that. And I meant is that show the respect the players are getting from the coaching staff. LA went probably to Glenn Sater or Jim Schoenfeld and say, listen, guys, we're going to go back to the hotel. We're not going home. We're going to have a good meal. I want you in bed. So it's all psychologically, you know, where it gets in the player's head in a positive way. Players saying, hey, you know, he knows we need our rest. We need a good dinner tonight instead of fly back to New York. I think it was a good move. I don't know what Chris thinks.
Yeah, I think they should have stayed here an extra couple of days and went to Shape every night. That would have been good.
That's from Chris Island, guys. Guys and girls.
Now, yeah, Michel Therrien, Alain Vigneault. Before that, we had Claude Julien, all with connections to the Canadians. All these coaches opening. Guy Carbonneau hasn't had a call. You're friends with Carbo. Could you see him getting back?
I don't know if he's going to get a call. Like, I think people, I think general manager maybe wait and see if he's going to go coach again. Was he going to go to the minors and take a coaching job? Was he going to be an assistant? And I'm not sure what Guy's plan is for that. If he wants to get back into coaching and he's waiting for someone to call, I'm not sure if they're going to do it just for the mere fact that he's not coaching right now. Not that he can't do the job, not that he's not in tune with the league, but I think GMs want to see guys that want coaching jobs out there coaching.
Jock, can you just speak a bit about what Carbo meant as a captain?
He was a great captain. He was a good leader, silent leader. Played the game the way it's supposed to be played. Not a very big man, and played, what, 1,300 games in the NHL. If I'm correct, 3 Stanley Cups, 2 with Montreal, 1 with Dallas. I think the most important thing, what you just asked you, it's a good question, because remember when he went to Chicoutimi and things didn't go well there? The general managers, as Chris mentioned, they're not going to call you. You have to do things to have them call you, like go coach junior, maybe get a job in the American League or something like that. What you have to do is just get back, because I have maintained a good relationship with my captain. We do a little stuff on TV together. He would definitely love to get back in the game.
Now, Chris, you played with the Rangers. You played with the Habs. Can you compare what it's like being a Ranger and being a Hab?
It's really hard. You know, when I left Montreal, I was in a bad way. You know, I was devastated about it. And when I got to New York, all I did, you couldn't help but compare. You know, I saw guys before the game sitting around. Everything was different. They had shrimp cocktail in the back room. They had all sorts of food and everything before the game and during the game. I just looked at everything like everything was done different there. They had beer in the room, and I'm like, we didn't do that in Montreal. I found myself comparing a lot. You know, it wouldn't be fair to really, you know, comment on that part, but I put it this way, I loved it here. I had fun in New York, but for me, it just wasn't the same as playing for the Canadians. I absolutely loved playing for the Canadians, and I never wanted to play anywhere else.
Jacques, as the last coach to win the Stanley Cup with the Canadians, any final words of advice going into Game 3?
I've been asked this for so many times in the last few weeks. You must be happy that if they don't win, you're going to still be. Hey, listen, it's been 21 years. I want them to win it. I'm a Canadian alumni. You know, us former Canadians, we're there. We want them to win, and I hope they do. And Michel Therrien is a friend, and I respect the organization. I work for the Molson family. The father treated me, Jeff's father treated me with great respect, and of course I want them to win. This is hockey town here. I know I coach in Detroit. They said it's hockey town, but this town here, the province of Quebec and Montreal, when Montreal do well, everybody gets on board.
Well, that's our time for this week, folks. We'll be back next week with another episode of HIO.